money. Everyone wants it. Until now, Monty Brewster didn't have it.
They tell me you're my only living relative.
But he just made money the old-fashioned way.
You have 30 days in which to spend $30 million.
He inherited it.
If you can do it, you get $300 million. But if you fail, you don't get diddly.
Why can't I tell my friends?
Because I don't want anybody to help me out.
What's wrong? Spike, what's wrong? $30 million. The man just got $30 million given to him. This is a good day, you know.
He can't keep it unless he can spend it and have nothing left but the shirt on his back.
Well, we're going to have a lot of fun with this kind of money.
Jake, I'd like to hire you as my official photographer. Salary $10,000 a week.
How would you like to be my personal driver for the next 30 days at $5,000 a week?
What a country. America, I love it.
Hey, everybody, anybody want to go to lunch?
Everyone thinks he's crazy.
I want to bet $50,000. It went up. We'll sell it.
I think we should consider the possibility of psychiatric help.
At the rate you're going, you'll have spent your entire inheritance in less than a month, and you'll have nothing to show for it.
But $300 million says he's right on the money. Richard Pryor and John Candy.
It's like that old saying, you know, if for money I'd be a millionaire, I'm a millionaire.
Brewster's Millions. Coming soon from Universal Pictures.
Guess what's happening at the Pentagon, friends?
Yeah. That's the first thing I thought of when I read this story late last night was it's not Brewster's Millions, it's Brewster's Billions, except it's not Brewster's inheritance he's spending. It's your money. It's your money that you are working for. You are having to pay into the federal government. And it is so just on brand for this most welfare queen administration, government moochers ever. And if you don't know that movie, it's called Brewster's Millions. It's from 1985. It's a fantastic movie with lots of great lessons. But Julie, I'll let you get to it.
Well, friends, the Defense Department under Pete Hegseth burned through $93 billion
with a B
dollars in September. Why September, you might ask? Well, the fiscal year for the federal government starts on October 1st. And if you have any money left over, if you don't use it, you lose it. Mm-hmm. And if they didn't use it, they could not come back to Congress and ask for even more funding the following year. So what did they do, Michelle? They didn't spend it on munitions. They didn't spend it on submarines. They didn't spend it on troops, maybe giving them a raise. They didn't spend it on anything that would keep us safe, even as they were plotting a war of choice in Iran and their incursion into Venezuela and apparently our coming war against Cuba. Mm-hmm. No, Michelle, they spent it on this. Almost $100,000 on a Steinway and Sons grand piano for the Air Force Chief of Staff's home, $5.3 million for Apple devices such as the new iPad, and $2 million for Alaska king crab, and $6.9 million worth of lobster tail, something that apparently Pete Hegseth's Pentagon loves, because in March, May, June, and October, it spent $7.4 million on lobster. They decided to also spend $15.1 million for ribeye steak in September alone, $124,000 for ice cream machines, and almost $140,000 on 272 orders of donuts. And just to be clear, friends, that happened in September. And when the new fiscal year began in October, millions of Americans lost their SNAP benefits. Amid the biggest government shutdown, longest government shutdown in U.S. history. And they spent, I can keep going here, they spent $225 million on furniture. Again, just in September, $12,000 for fruit basket stands. I don't even know what a fruit basket stand is. I've never even heard of such a thing.
And it was $60,000 of that $225 million that was just spent on premium Herman Miller chairs.
Yes, recliners to be specific.
Okay.
It spent more on furniture in 2025 than it did in the past decade alone, and over a decade.
Yeah. And then this is fun too. The Pentagon also made $6.6 billion in purchases from foreign governments and businesses, over $1 billion more than the previous record of $5.2 billion in September 2023. These expenditures included $3 billion for training classes, janitorial work, and border surveillance, plus $3.6 billion in goods, including computer chips and fire trucks. I mean,
Yes.
is bananas. And just so people know, the original report here, I was showing the raw story because, obviously a lot of other outlets are picking this up. The original report came out of the Daily Caller, which, if you don't know, is a uber conservative MAGA outlet that was founded by, which I just learned today, I didn't know this, Julie told me this earlier today, Tucker Carlson.
Well, so this is the part that I think is important, right? Tucker, I don't think that Tucker is at the Daily Caller anymore.
But I'm sure the ghost of Tucker still.
The ghost of Tucker is still there. It is a member of the White House press pool. It has published many a false story. This is not one of them. But Tucker founded it with a Republican political advisor named Neil Patel. And Neil Patel bought out Tucker's stake in 2020. Now Neil Patel runs it by himself. But
and that's where Caitlin Collins got her start, correct?
It is where Caitlin Collins got her start.
Yep.
Foster Friess, who of course funded Charlie Kirk in the beginning and also funded a bunch of all these other right-wing startups. Was a partial investor, I should say, until he died in 2021. But the point is this. The point is that the ghost of Tucker is still there. And Tucker hates this war. Hates this war. And Tucker hates Pete Hegseth, who replaced him on Fox and Friends weekends when Tucker got promoted to Fox and Friends. No, I'm sorry. He got promoted to having his own show at 8 p.m. and then he ultimately left Fox. Pete Hegseth is not Tucker Carlson's kind of guy. This is all about MAGA infighting. That Daily Caller broke this, but it still is legitimate to talk about.
I mean, this is where the economic populism and like the kind of the have and have nots messaging and heartbeat of the American people right now are feeling. And this is where the far right and the far left, I do fear are going to meet up, because this is the kind of stuff that Nick Fuentes would talk about, right? He talks about the fact that he was raised middle class, working class. He doesn't go on, fancy vacations. He's not, he doesn't have vacation homes and blah, 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 blah. And screw all these like neocons and Republicans and rhinos that do all this stuff and are just grifting. And the thing is about, Pete Hegseth is he's living in government housing, right? He's living in some government house, or he was.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a story a while back. A bunch of these people from the administration were taking military housing and living in that, basically rent free. As I'm pretty sure rent free. Christy Noem being one of them. These people, for all of the shit that like the American sort of exceptionalism has talked about, these other, authoritarian countries, fascist, dictators, taking money and resources from their people, bathing in milk, all that shit. That is exactly what this administration is doing with your money. While this country is paying an exorbitant amount of money at the pump when they fill up their cars, we're going to pay then even more in grocery prices as anything that's in transit, anything that needs to be shipped, all of those, cargo fees and because of fuel is going to go through the roof. If you want to fly somewhere in the coming weeks, months, God knows how long, airline tickets are going to go through the roof. I mean, the average person in America is having a hard time right now. There's a housing crisis in this country. There is a healthcare crisis in this country. People cannot afford to pay health insurance. People have to take out GoFundMes when they get cancer. James Vanderbeek just passed away from colon cancer, and his family had to have a GoFundMe because they needed to make sure, I mean, all the friends and family taking care of them, because the people in the United States, I mean, being sick can be, you know, you can go bankrupt. You can lose everything just because you're sick. And then Pete Hegseth takes $93 billion of your money and he buys crab and pianos and a $26,000 violin, and they throw parties and $12,000 fruit baskets. What would you do with $12,000? If you had $12,000 right now, the average American, what would you do with it? How would you spend that? How would you take care of yourself and your family? And those are the questions that we need to be asking ourselves. And this is where the Democrats, I hope, I know this story just broke, so I'll give them a second, but this is where the Democrats need to be out front. There's a lot of things going on right now, but this is the one I think that is polling in a way that that this administration is losing support day in, day out about the affordability thing, right?
Let me just say this. This is a president who ran on the swamp for the last decade. And it's not like this is a one-off. Kristi Noem took hundreds of millions of dollars,
right,
got on her goddamn horse in South Dakota and decided to go for a little trail ride along Mount Rushmore. And Trump ultimately got rid of her for a number of reasons, but I think the best reason that we know, in addition to the fact that she was obviously, you know, banging boots with Corey Lewandowski, which I think annoyed him, but it was the fact that the money was spent not to service Donald Trump's grift, which would have been okay,
right,
but on shit like stupid stuff, right? He's not going to get rid of Hegseth right now because Hegseth is, you know,
he's serving a purpose for him.
Serving a purpose right now.
Right.
But I don't know that Trump signed off on this. And it's not that Trump has a problem wasting billions of taxpayer dollars. It's just that I don't think this money went to Donald Trump or anything.
Right. He doesn't want anyone wasting money that's not somehow going to benefit him.
Yeah.
And you know, wasting money, the fraud, waste, and abuse that Elon Musk supposedly allegedly came in with his Doge program, which was all bullshit, to try and get rid of. Listen, the fraud, waste, and abuse of this administration is not a bug. It is a feature. It is a feature of how they do business. It's how they run government. It is all for them all the time. And the bottom line is what's in it for Donald Trump and his shitty children. And Jared Kushner.
Well,
who's like essentially a child at this point. Yeah.
Or Steve Witkoff is obviously kicking back. Crypto fund. Yeah, doorknob.
Yeah.
So the point is, like, that's the problem that we're seeing here. And I do want to know in the chat from folks, if you had that kind of money, if you had $12,000 to Michelle's credit, to Michelle's point, which they spent on fruit stands, which fruit basket stands.
The fruit basket stand. So I guess this is like a stand that is basket-like full of fruit. What kind of fruit? I don't know. Can't be bananas. Bananas aren't, I mean, although they're more expensive than they used to be, it's probably like, you know, dragon fruit or some nonsense.
Yeah.
You know what I
So
mean?
I want to know, if you had $12,000, how would you spend it?
Yeah.
In a month, I might add. So if you had $12,000 that was given to you in September, how would you have spent it in September?
Yeah.
Because that's your money.
It's your money.
That's your money. And
as we're rounding third base here of tax season, right? We're all getting ready to file our taxes, pay our taxes, all those things on April 15th. It's a little more than a month away. It feels like we're paying into a pedophile fund. That's what this feels like. I am enraged having to pay my taxes this year. Not because I don't like to pay my taxes. I mean, who likes to, right? But there's always a feeling of like, you know what? This is part of being an American. I'm paying my taxes. I live in the state of New York. You know, we have wonderful things here, blah, blah, blah. It's all part of the shared interest of the country. But now when you see them literally setting money on fire. This war in Iran, in the first 4 days, $900 million a day they are spending to this war of choice, to Julie's point. War of choice. $900 million a day to bomb boats. And then when they see survivors, bomb them more. The whole strategy of bombing fishing boats in the Caribbean, they've taken their talents to the Middle East to do it there. They're lying to us about the number of injured soldiers. Caroline Leavitt just said in a press conference at the White House, there are about 150, which means there are more.
Yeah.
Because there's no press. There's no Pentagon press pool anymore. It's a bunch of 25-year-old Nazi wannabe influencers taking selfies at
and not at the Department of Defense. They just kick them out.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody. So we have to take their word for it, just like we do with the Iranian regime and the kinds of things that they're reporting, according to the Iranians. Okay. According to the Gaza ministry, I'm like, oh, Hamas. You know what I'm saying? It's how do you take this information, seriously, considering the source?
And I have to say, I watched the dignified transfer of the most recent soldier who came home to Dover Air Force Base in a coffin yesterday. Mm-hmm. And that took place around 9:15 or so last night. I actually happened to turn on the TV and they were doing it. And I will never presume to speak for the family of the soldier. He was there. I believe he was a soldier. He was a Marine or an airman. Yeah. I apologize, but I believe he was a soldier. And there's J.D. Vance. And there is Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
And they are saluting the coffin as it is loaded off the plane and loaded onto the car, the hearse, the truck. I don't even know what it was that was going to take him to his final destination. And I'm sitting here thinking, and I said this out loud to my husband, and I said, but why? Why did he die?
Why
did he die?
For what?
For what? Why? We have not even been given
a
reason as to why this man is dead, along with 7 others who also perished.
Why? And everybody's giving different stories. Trump has one story, Marco Rubio has another story, Pete Hegseth has another story. Nobody can get their story straight. And Donald Trump was asked about some of this in the last day or so. And he's able to give sort of 2 answers in one, and he just gets away with it. He's like, well, the mission's kind of complete, but not. And everything's fine, and that's good. It's what?
What's stupid is I was watching, since my husband still watches the nightly news. So he was watching, and I walked into the room, David Muir. And David Muir said, right before we came on air, this was 6:30 at night Eastern, right? Right before we came on air, the president said that he was going to wrap this up quickly, right? Mm-hmm. That's actually not true. A few hours before they went on air, while the market was still opened, Trump said that he was going to wrap this up quickly because he saw which way the markets were heading and the price of oil was heading, right? The markets were going down and the price of oil was going sky high. As soon as the markets closed, Trump was like, well, I don't know. When I feel like it on my timeline. So even the media is not the only one. I will say this and I'll say it again. The only one on legacy media that's doing this right is Erin Burnett, because she just reported exactly what I said. Yep. Even ABC News was like, oh, the president just said, no, he didn't. He said 2 different things.
Yes.
And if the producers aren't on it, then you're not going to report the news accurately.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Hegseth said yesterday, and I quote, "We haven't stated how long it will take. Our will is endless." Extrapolate from that what you will. But these people have no end date, no timeline whatsoever. They barely have a strategy.
Yeah.
We are in serious trouble here with these people.
the markets are the market's about to close. It's almost 4 p.m. here in the East Coast, and the Dow's down again.
Oh, you mean it's not at 50,000?
No, the Dow is not at 50,000. Sorry, Pam Bondi.
Yeah.
The Dow is not at 50,000. All the indices are down. Every single one. The S&P, the Dow, the NASDAQ, the Russell. Oh, the Russell's up. Sorry. Gold is up, as it would be.
Of course.
That's where people are looking to buy.
We're not mad enough. We're not mad enough about anything, about any of it. About the fact that there was another drop of Epstein files after we went in and attacked Iran. There's another drop of Epstein files that mentioned Donald Trump, that the DOJ and Pam Bondi were being criticized for leaving out, including a very credible accusation. And I apologize for the the nature of this, but that Donald Trump shoved his penis into the mouth of a 14-year-old child. She bit it, and he punched her in the face. That is one accusation.
And kicked her out.
That is one accusation out of many, many, just like it. And that is one mention out of 1 million mentions in half. What was it, like 3 million files were released? There were 6 million. They released 3 million. And of the unredacted files, Jamie Raskin said there were over 1 million mentions of his name. So, there is no end. It's hard to keep your eye on the ball of like what the horribleness is. I think it's just, there's so much all the time. And if anything, the average American, I hope that they're just looking around and saying, my life's not getting any better. My life is getting worse. And now he's sending up a trial balloon that they might send my son to fight some world war that we didn't ask for and we didn't need to be in. Because they don't care about you. They don't care about you. They don't care about anybody, not any of us. And we're not mad enough. And the only people who can stop it really at this point is us. And so, it's $93 billion.
$93
just
billion. There's one more thing I want to say, Michelle, before we go. It's a bit off topic, but it's not, because we're at this war because of the Epstein files, right? Mm-hmm. We went to Venezuela because of the Epstein files, and we're back because of the Epstein files in Iran. I don't know if people followed the Alexander brothers trial. The 3 brothers, the real estate brothers who were convicted yesterday in federal court. The real estate listings, the millionaire, whatever they're called.
I don't know about this.
Yes. So I don't know if you followed this, but they are 3 brothers who were convicted. Twins Oren and Alan Alexander and Tal Alexander. The twins were $1 million listing reality TV.
Oh, right. I know that show. It sounds familiar.
Yeah. Well, they just got convicted, and will spend probably the rest of their life behind bars.
Good.
For rape and sex trafficking and having sex with underage girls and drugging girls and women and so on and so forth. They were indicted by the Justice Department. They were prosecuted by the Justice Department. So it seems, despite the problematic background, apparently, of some of their accusers, and I use problematic in quotes because that's always the excuse that's given as to why you can't bring these kinds of cases, that when you bring these cases before a grand jury, they will indict. And when you bring those kinds of cases in front of a jury, they often will convict, as they did here against celebrities, really rich and powerful celebrities.
Right.
Why is it, Pam Bondi, that you are indicting these people and I don't know about indicting because they might have gotten indicted under Biden, but why are you prosecuting and convicting these men But why are you not doing that for the Epstein co-conspirators?
Right. I mean, I think it's just to say, well, see, we do care about this. We're doing, we're prosecuting these guys.
Well, they were indicted. Actually, I just looked. They were indicted in 2024. That would be under Joe Biden or under Merrick Garland. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
That Jay Clayton, the U.S. attorney in New York, lauded the verdict as vindication for victims of crimes unreported and unpunished. And I quote, "The truth is sex trafficking and other federal sex offenses are present in many walks of life, and we have not done enough to root it out," Clayton said in a statement. That is Pam Bondi's Justice Department. That is the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, who was appointed by Donald Trump.
And at the root of all of this is always sexual violence against little girls and women.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Mm-hmm.
Always. And they wonder, why every woman walks through this world with our keys between our fingers and our looking over our shoulders.
Yep.
This is the world that we live in, where the most powerful, rich men in the world get to just do this. So these people are going to pay the price, but not the most powerful man in the world, not by a long shot, at least not now.
Yeah.
And data shown, and there's been articles written about this in the last couple of days, Julie, I'm sure you saw this. The Google search of Epstein files has fallen dramatically since the beginning of the Iran attacks, this war, which is exactly what they wanted.
Yep.
And meanwhile, they're destroying the Iranian oil reserves and opening up Russia to be able to sell their oil, which then will, they'll be able to collect revenue on this to then pay for their war and genocide against the Ukrainian people at the hands of the United States government. We are not mad enough. We are not mad enough. We are not mad enough.
Yeah.
And where are the people in the streets? Where is everybody? I ask every day, where is everybody? The sun is shining. It's 70 degrees out today. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So next time the Doge says they have to gut the CIA at a time when we have, we're sitting ducks for reprisals from the Iranians. And as we're speaking now, there was a attempted murder in a Baltimore synagogue.
Mm-hmm.
A police officer was injured, as was the alleged assailant. We'll know more about that in the next hour or two.
Mm-hmm.
But you saw an attack on Gracie Mansion that was thwarted.
Yep.
Several days ago.
There was another thing today. I saw that there's another suspicious
potential attack at Gracie Mansion, which is the New York mayor's mansion.
Over on the east side, yeah.
Over on the east side, Upper East Side, again today. Meanwhile, Doge and Trump and Kash Patel and everybody else gutted our counterintelligence, and Department of Homeland Security gutted our counterintelligence. But it's okay because we've got money to feed Hegseth lobster tail.
There should be a split screen of all of this shit happening and Kash Patel pounding beers and Pete Hegseth running his mouth and spending $93 billion of your money. This shit should not stop. You have to call it out. You have to bring receipts and you have to show people in the plainest way possible. And I we can only do so much here, Julie and myself. It's going to take all of us, specifically the people who have the money and the resources to do it. We're counting on you, to pick it up and run with it. Make the ads.
And Trump is already trying to backpedal out of the war. And now the person he's throwing under the bus is Jared Kushner because, and I quote, based on what Jared Kushner told me, I thought Iran would attack us. What a complete and utter pathetic group. It's not our intelligence agencies, friends, not our intelligence agencies, not the president's daily brief, his son-in-law.
He doesn't even go here. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't work for the federal government. So you're just going to take his word for it? Like, stop. I mean, he's lying, obviously, right? But like, who's buying this? This like ghoul, paper mache doorknob, Jared Kushner. Have you ever seen a group of people just so mediocre and underqualified for every position that they've held in life, including his two stupid Beavis and Butthead sons who are now in the drone business? No. If this is not pissing every American off who has had to work for everything you've had in your life, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, Julie. I'm so angry. I'm so angry. I'm just like, I'm so furious. And you know what? It's Women's History Month this month too. And it was International Women's Day on Sunday. And I barely even wanted to talk about it. I barely even want to recognize it because everything feels so stupid. It's like, what's the point? You know, Black History Month was last month. You know, is this administration acknowledging any of this? No, of course not. Because it's not about us. It's about them. So it's just infuriating, Julie.
It's infuriating. Just remember, it's your money.
It's your money. And all I can think of is Pete Hegseth on Fox and Friends outside throwing that axe over that partition and hitting a drummer in the arm and injuring this person and just going, oh, oops. That, my friends, is Pete Hegseth. And that is how he's doing his job in a nutshell.
Yep. All right, friends. It was good to be with you and be outraged for a few minutes today. We'll probably be back tomorrow.
Good company. You're in good company.
You're in good company. If you're outraged, you've come to the right place. Okay.
Yep.
Great to see everybody, and we will see you all very soon.
And I just want to point out too, just before we go, please watch the Mayday Network. Please like and subscribe here. Please be part of our little family here. You'll be the first to know when we do these lives and when we have new content, including a podcast that is premiering Thursday morning called The Illegals, the Americans Rewatch podcast. Julie and I are leading the charge on. There's 7 of us in total. We're going to rewatch The Americans. It's a whole lot of fun with Russian experts and disinformation experts. It's going to be great. So I'm going to play us out with that trailer so you guys can get a little tasty taste of that. Follow us here on YouTube. Follow us on Apple Podcasts. And we will see everybody else very soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Once upon a time in 2013, a television show debuted on FX about deep-cover Soviet spies living quietly in suburban America, part of what the KGB called the Illegals program. It was a different world then. Barack Obama was president. And then, of course, there was this.
Russia, I indicated, is a geopolitical foe. And I said in the same paragraph, I said, and Iran is the greatest national security threat we face.
And the 1980s are now calling to ask for their foreign policy back. You know, the Cold War's been over for 20 years.
Back then, the Americans felt like history. How quaint. Now, it feels like it was a warning.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find.
Welcome to The Illegals, the Americans Rewatch podcast. A deep dive into one of the greatest television dramas ever made, and the real history behind it. Each episode, we rewatch The Americans with historians, Russian experts, disinformation researchers, and people who lived through it, including a Soviet refugee, intelligence experts, cultural critics, and storytellers. We'll discuss all of it, the music, the performances, and yes, we will absolutely be discussing the Whigs. The Cold War didn't just shape our history. It shaped the world we're living in right now. The United States won the Cold War. Or did we? The Illegals, the Americans Rewatch podcast. Launching soon from the Mayday Network.